And we're back again. Luke Reimer, Flurry Sports, with another mock draft building a championship winning team around every first round pick. Today we are doing the seventh pick, which we are going to make Amon-Ra St. Brown. I am going to show you how to build a championship roster around Amon-Ra St. Brown when you have the seventh pick in your 12 team PPR fantasy draft. Again, it's the same thing as always: one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, a flex, a tight end, a kicker, a defense, which, spoiler, we're not going to draft, and seven bench spots, which end up going to be nine draft spots. So let's get right into it. So we're going to set our player. Amon-Ra St. Brown. And let's start this draft up again. First through six picks don't really matter, although Twitter gives on one. That's kind of fun. So coming around, I like to build up my my running back room here with guys that are going to come out and get those 20 to 25 carries, especially if we're going wide receiver in the first round. Bucky Irving is a guy who has shown that he can be that guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He exploded at the end of the year last year. He really took the NFL by storm. He was kind of a focal point of that Tampa Bay offense that really got that team to win another NFC South division and to win a Super Bowl. He feels like a guy who continued with those 20-25 carries to be a 10-50 to 1100-yard rusher, an 11-12 touchdown receiving work. Probably sees 50 something targets with 450 receiving yards plus a touchdown or two. He's a guy who probably comes away in the year, with 300, at least targets, I guess. Not 300 targets in the passing game, but two 250 rushes plus the rest of the work he gets in the passing game. So give me Bucky Irving here. Coming back around, I'd love to build our our running back room up. Let me pull up our roster here. Let me pull it all the way up. So we're at Amon-Ra St. Brown. We are at Bucky Irving. Now, not really seen. So the one that immediately sticks out to me is T. Higgins, right? He's a guy that I continue to draft in league because he gets undervalued just being that wide receiver two. But out of that wide receiver two, like let's look at the season. He was wide receiver 19. I know he had some injury last year, but in games that he played in PPR, right, he's due for like a 29. He's due for an 18. I'm sure he won a lot. He's due for a 29, a 17, a 19, a 19. He won a lot of people weeks last year, including me, with the week 17 40-point performance. 131 yards, three touchdowns. Like Jamar Chase is going to see wide receiver one coverage, given his speed. He's going to see safety coverage over the top. T. Higgins is, probably a wide receiver one. He's probably a top 15 receiver in this league, and he's wide receiver two on the Cincinnati Bengals offense. I absolutely love that. I usually like to really build up my two running back there, but when you have a T. Higgins available, I think you have to take him. He's a guy that, he's our wide receiver two. I would be fine if he was our wide receiver one. And we're coming around with a really interesting decision here. We have an Alvin Kamara. We have an Amari Hampton. We have a Devontae Adams. We have a James Conner. The one that I'm very interested in is Amari Hampton. Najee Harris is already dealing with injury. Even, if Najee Harris were to play, he probably sees a little bit early snap. But we know that this is Amari Hampton's backfield. Jim Harbaugh wants to run the ball there at the Chargers. He showed that last year. He's got Amari Hampton, who in my mind was probably as pro ready as Ashton Genty was last year. I know that's crazy to say, but Hampton played in that pro style offense in North Carolina. He's shown that he can play physical. He can burst out. He can catch the ball. He can really do everything that you want as a running back. And he's a first round pick by the Chargers. He's absolutely going to be used this year. Give me Amari Hampton as my running back too. Especially in the fourth round, I don't hate that at all. Coming back around, I think we're going best player availability here. I know I like to fill my roster out as goes, But I don't care if we get a wide receiver or a running back here. And the one that I'm looking at is perfect. I'm taking David Montgomery here. David Montgomery continues to impress. I know this is kind of the first year with it, right, without Ben Johnson. Let's see how he does. But what has David Montgomery shown that he shouldn't be on the field for? Like, he's a major reason that Jameer Gibbs is a first round pick this year. He's kind of that ground and pound guy to open up those rushing lanes that Jameer Gibbs can hit, like a flaming arrow, like Yondu's arrow in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going to continue to take David Montgomery until he disappoints me. I would imagine that his volume goes down a little bit. I don't necessarily know that his goal line work goes down. Even without Ben Johnson, the Lions are still one of the better offenses in the NFL. Still going to use that two-headed rushing attack, that thunder and lightning that every team kind of strives for. Like, it's perfect with the David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. David Montgomery is going to come out. He's going to be, that first drive, that second drive tone setter running back. And I love that. If you're getting, he's not technically, I guess, not the starting running back. It doesn't feel like there's a starting running back, right? It kind of feels like both. But when we break it down to it, Dave Montgomery is the starting running back on this team. Give me Dave Montgomery as my flex, as my, running back 3 flex. I love that. Coming back around, I've seen Xavier Worthy. I hope he's available. He is not. So we're coming around. Travis Hunter is a really interesting one here. I'm not going to do it. But we're looking for a wide receiver. One receiver that I really like this year is Calvin Ridley. With maybe the worst quarterback play of all time last year, Calvin Ridley finished as wide receiver 25. Now, I know, it wasn't as exciting or anything, but looking at the weeks, 24-point week, right? See, we're seeing these 8s, these 1s, these 2.5s, these 0.9s, these 7.2s. We get a 22.6. We get a 25.4. We get a 9. We get a 6.5. Then we get a 16. Then we get a 14. I think a lot of that had to do with inconsistent quarterback play. Tennessee Titans, when I drafted a Cam Ward #1 pick this year, who is already better than Will Levis. Cam Ward is a guy who can kind of play with, a little bit of an attitude that he thinks that, he's better. He's a 0-star recruit. He's definitely playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think he's a guy who might say, he's going to throw the FU ball. And I think Calvin Ridley is a guy who we've seen in the past burn with speed. He's a guy who can go up and make catches. He's a guy who can really work in the red zone. He can take long touchdowns. And we know with that big arm that Cam Ward has, Calvin Ridley's going to be on the receiving end. You're telling me Calvin Ridley is my wide receiver 3? I love it. Love it. I love it. I love it. Coming around, we have a quarterback and a tight end that we need to fill yet. I think that is A-okay. And as we come up, our tight end is sitting there available. We're going to Evan Ingram here. Evan Ingram is a tight end who is going to step into a Denver Broncos offense who really needs a tight end. I don't know how many Adam Troutman targets I watched that I'm like, just imagine if anyone else was running that route and catching that ball. Just imagine how I think there's a lot of target shares available in this Denver offense. Evan Ingram didn't have the greatest season at Jacksonville. He's a chance to kind of come in and revitalize his career in his Sean Payton offense. He's going to play that stand-up wide receiver role that's not going to work. A stand-up wide receiver tight end role that's not really going to work in the blocking. The last person we saw do that in a Sean Payton offense was Jimmy Graham. I don't think that Evan Ingram is Jimmy Graham. But if he can play, any sort of resemblance to Jimmy Graham, I think it's certainly worth, taking the tight end on a team that is going to look to go back to the playoffs. Boom. So all we need to do to fill out a starting lineup is a quarterback here. Jared Gossville, I don't hate taking him here. I see another, player or two that I would rather take. I don't hate Kyler Murray here. I really don't hate Kyler Murray here. It's interesting. So Kyler Murray is probably not going to get it done through the air as much as you would like him to. But what he is going to do is he's going to get it done on his legs. We came into the season saying that Kyler Murray wanted to use his legs more. James Conner is going to be very effective. The Arizona Cardinals have a very good run blocking offensive line. And once James Conner is effective, that gives Kyler Murray that many more chances to kind of deceive and kind of run behind that offensive line with these options, with some veers, with some with some quarterback power sweeps, things like that. I love the leg upside here from Kyler Murray. You know exactly where you're getting out of Kyler Murray. You're getting 200 yards passing. You're getting a touchdown pass. You're getting 100 rushing yards, and you're getting hopefully a rushing touchdown. I think that kind of fills some holes. If we had holes in this team, it's kind of that extra oomph, to really get going. Taking J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is a starting running back on a playoff team that nobody's talking about, and I'm taking that in the ninth round. People are taking defenses ahead of a starting running back on a playoff team. Crazy. Again, just speaking on J.K. Dobbins real quick. RJ Harvey comes in. I'm an RJ Harvey guy. I like him a lot. When is one running back? When is Sean Payton ever favored to use workhorse running back? I don't necessarily know that Denver comes in and gives their rookie running back a whole lot of work right away. They signed J.K. Dobbins for a reason. J.K. Dobbins, and we're going to follow it up with a Zach Charbonnet in the 10th round. Ken Walker is a guy that I like. Seattle Seahawks are a team that I like this year. Clint Kubiak is their offense coordinator. He's going to run the hell out of the ball. We have seen injury history from Ken Walker, and we have seen what happens when Ken Walker is not on the field. Zach Charbonnet is on the field. Zach Charbonnet has been awesome, and I think even with Ken Walker healthy, I think they can replicate, not necessarily be that Gibbs Montgomery, but they can replicate that 1-2 punch with such a heavy run scheme. Give me Zach Charbonnet. Coming around, I'm taking Austin Eckler here. He's kind of being forgotten about in this Washington backfield amidst the Brian Robinson leave. Everyone's looking for that running back. Everyone's landing on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, which I am not into in the 11th round. If he's available in 13th, 14th round, I think that's a good pick for you. But he is a guy, Austin Eckler is a guy who I think gets goal line work. I think he gets red zone work. I think he gets passing game work. Jaden Daniels is also there to run the ball. But it kind of feels like Austin Eckler and Chris Rodriguez are kind of going to split that goal line stuff. Maybe Chris Rodriguez is a little bit, but Austin Eckler, we've seen how good he is run the goal line. I don't necessarily think that he's out of anything when it comes to the run game scheme. It doesn't make sense to me why he would be off the field, as Washington pushes for another, trip back to the NFC Championship with that run game. Give me Austin Eckler. Now we're in an interesting position here. I don't like Rashid Shaheed. I don't like Tank Bigsby. I don't like Darnell Mooney. I am going to take. If you're not keen in on Evan Ingram here, I don't hate taking Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is and will continue to be, 750 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's going to be the guy who's going to be open over the middle for Jalen Hurts. He's shown his whole career. Just give him the ball and run a little bit. I think that is a good tight end 2 for us. I'm looking for a receiver now. So what are we in here? 13th round. This is where we take Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But I am looking for a receiver, and I am looking for one. Trey Harris. Trey Harris is going to line up outside next to, Quentin Johnson, next to Lavin Conkey, next to Keenan Allen. He is a guy who made just like every play he made at Ole Miss last year was a big play. We know that Justin Herbert isn't afraid to take those deep shots. We know that he's got a strong arm. I like the idea of Trey Harris kind of being that clear guy that's not super fast but is able to go get jump balls. It's kind of like a rebounder in basketball. I'm a big Trey Harris fan. Okay, so I don't hate going another receiver here. If we see anything we like, let's have some fun with this pick. This pick probably is not making your team. It's probably not ever going to start on your team, right? But if there is a guy who would be very fun to start, Dante Johnson, 6'5", ran a 4.3 40. He's a guy who has quietly been looking good in preseason. He's a guy who's going to, line up alongside a Jack Beck, alongside a Colton Myers, alongside a Brock Bowers, alongside Nash and Genty. Chip Kelly's there. We know how much Chip Kelly loves to use speed. Dante Thornton is one of those guys who can get up the field and can work that sideline. I don't necessarily know that he's totally NFL ready yet, but I mean, he's starting probably a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 on a Vegas team who's probably going to mix in a lot of receivers and just given his size alone, let's look at him here. 6'5", 205. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who can burn. I think he's sneaky pick for NFL teams here. All right, coming back. 1, 2, 3 running backs. Let's look at the quarterback position. I like Trevor Lawrence here. It feels like a make or break year for Trevor Lawrence. we know that he's going to use his legs when he gets into situations where he doesn't feel comfortable. Jaguars, they did something to address the running back room, but really that running back room is not great in my mind. Travis Hunter is there, Brian Thomas is there. That's kind of a very fun receiving room now that I think of it. Travis Hunter, he was awesome with the ball in his hands at Colorado. I think that's going to, reap a lot of benefits for Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas. We saw what he did last year. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Trevor Lawrence. Oh, I don't absolutely love it, but I like it for a guy who's really hungry. Working towards another contract. Not working towards another contract, but kind of working towards some respect in the NFL. I think Trevor Lawrence lost a lot of respect, and maybe not to the fault of his own. He's had a lot of interesting coaches come in and out of there. Following that up, I'm going to take. I think Xavier Leggett's worth a flyer here. He's going to come in as a big time weapon for Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers as they continue to develop. Adam Thielen is now in Minnesota, making it seem like there are open targets around. Xavier Leggett is he's a big kind of player, 6'3", 225, 227. Feels like he's a guy who can kind of be that that safe route threat for Bryce Young as he gets going. I think Xavier Leggett could be a player where he's a sleeper, and you look and you're like, I get him in the 16th round. That's a keeper pick. That's the guy I'm going to keep and lose my 15th round pick. So I'm totally cool with that. Again, we're not taking kicker and defense because those are as easily streamed as they are drafted. To me, there's not really a big difference between the 12th kicker that gets drafted and the 13th kicker that gets picked up. Same with the defenses. We're going to draft some players. If you don't like the situation with Dante Thornton, you can drop him. But I think I think the board is really open to us. We're going to fill that up with DeAndre Hopkins again. This might be a drop pick for you. It might be trade bait, but DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a big target in the red zone for a Lamar Jackson team who's going to make it to the red zone often. People kind of forget how good DeAndre Hopkins is at football. Now, has he lost a step? Maybe. But you don't lose the ability to catch a football, right? You don't lose the ability to be a strong physical receiver, right? I think DeAndre Hopkins' offense is really interesting. I think there's touchdown potential. I don't necessarily know that there's yardage potential, but the touchdown potential is there. And, if it happens, I want to be the one who gets it. So going over our last, our team here, Kyler Murray, Bucky Irving, Amari Hampton, Amon-Ra St. Brown, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, David Montgomery. We skipped on kicker and defense, but we're coming back with the J.K. Dobbins, Zach Charbonnet, and Austin Eckler, Dallas Goedert, Trey Harris, Dante Thornton, Trevor Lawrence, Xavier Leggett, and a DeAndre Hopkins. What would you do differently? Leave it in the comments. I think 6 is an interesting spot to pick from. It kind of feels like you're up every couple picks, right? Because you're right in the middle. But it's kind of harder to plan than if you were able to plan, 2 picks out if you have team 2 or team 11 or anything like that. So, are you drafting at 6? If you did draft at 6, let me know what you did. I'm very interested to see how similar or dissimilar it looks from my team. And tell me what strategies you're using at 6. Are you going, are you going around an Amon-Ra St. Brown? Are you trying to get 2 running backs right away? Or in a full, I guess in a full PPR, are you trying to build out that receiving room and really dominating those receiving targets? Let me know. And again, as always, thank you. Like and subscribe to the channel. Go buy our draft kit. Zach does a really good job with it. He's awesome at putting together fantasy football stuff. It's something that he loves. It's something that you love if you're on here. And he's really good at it. He is, top 5, top 10 in fantasy pros. That's a big one. So again, thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys did when you're building a team around Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right, thanks. Fuck yeah!